Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Magnetic Soul Podcast. If you are new here, welcome. I'm your host, Jamie Zajac. I am really excited about today's conversation. I don't have interviews very often, but have a very special conversation for you guys. I know some of you might already know her, but if you don't, I have Nikki Novo on the podcast today. She is a best-selling author, speaker, and the creator of the popular podcast, Soul-Led Living. Known for her relatable, heart-centered approach to personal growth, Nikki helps people learn how to hear, trust, and follow their inner voice so they can create a life that is true for them. She's a former media editor turned spiritual teacher turned modern thought leader. Nikki blends intuitive wisdom with real life guidance to help her audience find clarity, confidence, and purpose in their careers, relationships, parenting, and beyond. I'm so excited for you guys to hear this conversation. I felt like this was such an inspiring, real deep dive conversation of all things really just navigating the soul's path, navigating life lessons, your soul's path, and really this spiritual path that we're all on. It's really an inspiring conversation for being brave enough to follow your soul's true path, even if it's a little bit different, even if it feels unknown, even if it makes you seem a little bit selfish, to really move that needle forward in your life. This conversation, we really went deep. Not only is it like an intuitive conversation, we both shared real life experience and related to all things really the soul's path. So I'm really excited for you guys. It's really empowering. I know when I listen to it, there's so much wisdom in it, and really about stepping into this main character energy and really what that is and how, we are really the creators of our reality. We get to write the rules. We get to rewrite the script. If something isn't working with you, you get to change that. And this episode is just so deeply empowering. Nikki is someone who I've personally experienced. I did her course, Soul Teacher Reading Method, 5 years ago. I know in the show I said 4 years ago, but I realized it was actually 5 years ago, which is so wild to me. And I do know they have another enrollment coming out next week. I believe it's like February 4th-ish. If you're interested, you can check out the links in the show notes for you guys to connect with her. And I just really want to get into it. So if you are really business, we talk about tips, initiations, lessons in living a soul-led business and leadership. There's just so much in this episode. And not only that, Nikki's just such an incredible soul. She has such a beautiful heart, an incredible soul. And I just know that you guys are going to love her. So let's get right into it. I'm excited for you guys to hear it. Let me know what you think. It was like a very clear message, and I feel like it's something that you've really, because when you have a podcast, you don't really know how it's affecting people. And I'm not someone who listens to a lot of podcasts. Like I don't like listen to every episode or like listen to a lot of spiritual content. I don't know if you find this where you have to kind of like be clear in your energy, but it's always I'll be guided to the right things at the right time. And in the fall, I don't know how it happened, but one of your episodes popped on. I don't know how it happened. I was in the car and it popped on, and it didn't even start from the beginning. It was like in the middle somewhere. And I've been telling people this quote because it's helped me so much. And it's something that I feel like this past year I really had to have very clear boundaries, and I've almost had to just have really good boundaries. I had to start to fuel myself instead of trying to help everybody else at the cost of my own self. And I had to like really put into myself and get really clear, get really focused, and like really have good boundaries. And I can't remember the name of the episode. It was something about your healing self, but it came on. You've healed when you're no longer afraid of catching the disease, or you can be in the energy of it, but you're not afraid you're going to like catch the disease. I swear I'm living my life as that quote. It's like this quote I keep telling people about because it is so true. It's, I've had to move away from a lot of energies that felt very pulling and draining, and also family stuff. I've had to really leave family behind and focus on myself, focus on my path and toxic dynamics, and kind of go through a big healing over the past few years. And I think I've gotten to this place where I felt like, can I have it back in? Like, am I in this next level self enough for me to, like, maybe occasionally I have this in my life? And at the time I was really questioning it. And then your podcast came on and it was like, signs you've healed.
Yeah, I think it's like messages from your healed self, I think is
Yes.
what I'm thinking. So
Uh-huh.
have you been able, I call that almost like, my husband's been in recovery for 6 years now. And it's, to me, it's like, can he go to the bar and be okay? Can he
Right.
go to the party and be okay? We just went to Vegas and I was like, is he going to be okay? And
Yeah.
it's just doesn't even phase him at all, which
Yeah.
maybe a year into his addiction, a few months into, like, absolutely not. But I
Yeah.
think, yeah, like the idea is that hopefully you can get to that place where you can be around those things that used to like really trigger you and
Mhm.
you get to experience it in a totally different way, which is really nice.
Isn't that interesting to note that, like, I feel like when your soul is done with an experience, you can go through all these experiences, and when your soul is done with that lesson, it's like it doesn't even affect you anymore. Like, you look back and you're like, I don't even need this problem anymore. Like, I don't need that.
Well, I think I think you can even prompt that. Like, you don't always have to like wait for that to happen.
Mhm.
One of the times that I know that like for me, I had this very ongoing, like, kind of victim villain situation with my mom. She was my
Mhm.
villain, I was the
Mhm.
victim.
Mhm.
And as much as like I thought I was, I was doing the work. I mean, I've been doing the work for years.
Mhm.
And I just remember getting to a point of being like, I don't think this hero needs a villain anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I think every hero accidentally looks for a villain. There's this opportunity. Like, so first, like, there's the victim and the villain, and that like is really rough because you're like, you can get like really, really stuck in that. But as I started to like leave victimhood and be like, okay, I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to accomplish this. I'm going to do that. And, all these things, you still kind of have a villain. There's like always like something you're working against. Like it's like I'm working against the dark, or I'm working against
Right.
this, or I'm going to prove these people.
Oh my
Um,
God.
and I was kind of bored of that screenplay. I was like, and my favorite shows are the series that like the second or third season, the original villain from like season one, like now in season two, has a new storyline. And, sometimes it's like you have to give these villains in your life a new storyline. Like if you, like if, unless you want to keep being traumatized by this person or keep being like just annoyed and triggered by this person, you
Mhm.
have to give them another role in your life. Like
Mhm.
write them another story. I have a girlfriend right now who's going through like she's already divorced, but has been divorced for quite a long time. And, she talks about her villain, right? Her
Right.
ex-husband all the time. He's the villain. He's the villain. He's the villain. And even there's places, it's hard, but I'll be like, listen, we need to cheer this guy on. Like,
Mhm.
imagine if you would cheer him on. Like, when you cheer him on, I'm not saying you're forgiving him. I'm not saying you like him. I'm not saying you're going to hang out with him. But, like, let's let him surprise you. Like, let's let him do something other than be the villain. But
Yeah.
we actually, like, keep our villains as villains because we want them to be predictable. Like, actually, them being unpredictable in a weird way is like the scariest thing because
Yeah.
if they are no longer the villain, then like what am I? So
Right.
yeah, so I feel like you don't have to like wait for that to happen. I actually feel like you can start putting that into motion, being like you said, like I don't think my soul needs anything from this lesson anymore. Like what would it
Yeah.
look like to not need anything else from this lesson? Like how could I complete this lesson and
Yeah.
not need it anymore? And I think that that really just I've seen that done with um I was diagnosed very young with arthritis,
Mhm.
and the arthritis is always popping up and blah blah blah, and I kind of got into this place. I was like, you know what, I love you and I've always like appreciated you, but I don't think I need you like to be my
Mhm.
teacher anymore. And my knee has been like amazing for the last few years. But then I started to get like face stuff. I was like, damn, like they tricked me. Like I'm like, there's still something going on. But my knee was probably like, okay, fine, I don't have to be it anymore. But now it's like on my face. But anyways, like I feel like you can set those things in motion. I've seen that
Yeah.
enough that you are truly the author of your own story, of your own movie. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's all about moving people around. Even sometimes, like it sounds like maybe your family members were like main characters, and you
Mhm.
decided that you're just not going to be main characters anymore. Like
Yeah.
maybe they make a cameo every once in a while, but I don't want them like taking up this main character energy
Yeah.
in my life anymore. And that might mean that in season 4 they come back totally different, and they're not the villains anymore, and they have whatever, like there's a place for that. But I think we have to be actively writing that story.
I love that because it really is like we are the frequency holders and we are the ones that get to set the field for how others treat us, for how others, you know what I mean? And I think that that's such an important thing to see it as like a character in your movie and you are the main character rather than the other way around. And
Totally.
also testing the field and being like, okay, this can either be in my life or it's not time to be in my life, or these people are just not an energy match for who I am and who I'm becoming. And I think there is this, I really realize that there is a phase because I have a lot of mother stuff too. So it's like there is a phase in it all where you're in the stage of like needing those clear boundaries and breaking away and kind of going off on your own, because if I had that energy in my life I wouldn't be where I am right now. Like I wouldn't be able to do the work that I'm doing. I wouldn't be able to step into this in any way. And I feel like I had to have those, that's a season of my life I had to have those very clear boundaries of like this can't be blocked, it has to be blocked right now. And but then there's a phase where you're like, well, I've learned that role, I've learned that lesson, and now I'm like in such a new place where the games don't affect me anymore. Like it's like rising above the noise and the games and recognizing for what it is and being like, okay, I can actually like set the field now for how others treat me and I can play around with it. So I don't know if you notice this. There's like so many of these weird spiritual ascension rules that I feel like where we're going are kind of up for negotiation. We'll say we're up for renewal, and all these old rules that used to be the way that things were. But now there's just a new, I don't know, it's like you get to a new place and you realize it's not this like these old rules, like who made up these rules anyway, where like if you have, like I've heard this before, if you have this person in your life it means you're getting sucked into like an old loop and an old cycle and you're not going to like ascend or evolve. And it's like who came up with these things and who's believing them, and like why do I believe that right now? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that that's been the issue with the collective change over the last few years that's been like driving people crazy, because like as much as like we want to be free of those rules, once we're expanding so much at such a rapid pace
Mm-hmm.
and seeing that there's like many other ways to do things, but not having new rules yet set in place and like kind of
Yeah.
still being in this unknown place is really what is, I think, been hard for us as a collective. I mean, we were talking, I don't know if we were recording, but like off camera, we were talking about like Substack, that like so many people are in Substack now. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, that rush, that like gold rush is this gold rush of like people understanding that maybe they don't have to make money the way that they used to. Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
there's other ways. Maybe I can get paid to be myself. Maybe I can get paid for like the things that I love. And that awareness has come in, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like the knowing is there, but like the belief isn't fully there. So that's
Yeah.
why like we're rushing for it, but it hasn't like necessarily like clicked yet, because that belief is not solidified. You might be the first person in your lineage to even believe that. And you're up against 4, 5, 6 generations of believing that you have to do shitty work to, make a living or whatever.
Yeah.
So that is, yeah, that's kind of like, as much as we don't want the old rules, we're also a little bit in a panic because
Yeah.
we don't know like what we're ascending faster than things have settled. So it's kind
Yeah.
of, it can be scary.
It is. And I think it's also this weird place where you kind of like are in thick of life lessons and ancestral patterns and past life patterns and how these all take a role, have a role in, what we came here to clear in these karmic completions that we've all been kind of moving through. And I think we're like at this place where you're kind of like popping out of it. And it's almost like I describe it as this like disorienting feeling when you're in this Disney character movie when you're like the spell's broken and you're like, wait, what? I'm free? You mean I had the key all along and the cage is open? I didn't have to be in this cage. And it's like we get to create these rules. And I think it's also this place of really coming into our power as souls, as like, oh, we actually get to create our reality. Oh, we get to actually have a say in what our next steps are and how this thing works. And I think at the same time, there's such a big grip for control of what it's going to look like. But there's so many things happening in this paradigm shift that we have to be okay with being in the unknown and letting it shift kind of out of nowhere in a way. And knowing that in this unknown, in this place, we will be guided to the right things at the right time. And that in fact, some of what is about to happen is just something that hasn't happened before. And so it's like, I think there's like this thing that some people are looking for. It's like, what is that thing? And then I feel like it's like soon to click. And when it clicks into place, or it's like a new technology or something that really clicks and it kind of becomes the thing. And I feel like there's a lot of like streamlining that path in a big way.
What do you think, Jamie? Like, so you're saying like every, souls get to this awareness that they're creators, but then what do you say to the person that is like trying to create some sort of life and they've been doing it for a long time, like they've been at it for many years, whether it's like finding love, making money, like whatever it is,
Yeah.
and they can't get there. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think it is?
So I feel like really the past year especially is like there's been these things that and you read souls all day so you know, but I'll just explain it for the greater. But like I feel like we each came in with these, because I've always questioned these things, is like we've each came in with these things that we came to work through, and we came to heal a lot of it for our ancestors, old experiences that we came to work through. And it's like we have this knowing that it's meant for us. And I think that so many people, when it comes to love or money or relationships or health, have been going through these individual journeys of this thing that I call is like on their wrist that they can't seem to shake. And I really feel like we're moving into a place where, and it's like actually true, where we've learned that lesson. And I think we're in this almost this holding period right now where those things that have been served as our greatest weights that we came to work through, we're now experiencing a shift in that where I feel like these almost like these new soul connections and these new ways are wanting to come in. So I do feel like a lot of people came in to work through these things. Okay, I came to work through, say it's like love, partnership, relationship, friendships, like, and we almost like gave up on hope. But I feel like this thing that's been on the wrist is about to break through or is in the process of breaking through or has already broken through, and you're like moving on to the other side for to receive that thing. And it does kind of feel like out of thin air in many ways. It does feel like it happens out of nowhere, and it's confusing, and it's like having to be able to hold that and that reality, like, oh, my reality completely changed. And now that thing like money, when it comes to like money or those friendship things that I came to work through, I passed those tests, those significant things that have been so difficult. And now breaking through, and I've almost like, say you like lose hope for a moment, but then it comes in and it's there. And then it's like almost that old experience doesn't even exist anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've just been yeah, it's been a little bit hard for the last couple of years. I feel like the people that,
Yeah.
because like we had that awareness, like you had like an awakening in like 2022, let's say, like you had this kind of moment of like, I need to change my life or I want to do something different. And then you work at it, let's say for like the last, 2, 3 years, and you're like,
Yeah.
wow, I'm not getting anywhere. And it almost feels like a lot of people are a little bit at like a bit of a
So,
breaking, like a breaking point.
yeah.
But it is interesting. I've always said like 2026, 2027, like second half of
Yes.
2026, all of 2027.
Yeah.
It's just the earth is like, it's all connected. So everybody is gonna like, there's a season, there's like this summer season, basically, like where things
Yeah.
start to bloom. But it's really, yeah. But I just like, yeah, I just,
It's so frustrating.
yeah, I wanted to put it out there for anybody who's
Yeah.
like feeling like their seed is still in the dark.
Yeah, and it's like the seeds that have been planted there, they're starting to they're
Yeah,
popping up for a lot of people. So my biggest advice would be to like just hold the faith a little longer
right.
because it's right there. It's like you can taste it
Yeah.
and it's there and you're kind of starting to get those glimmers of hope. And I think we've been many people, I know myself too, have been tested to such an extreme end of this path. And I always just say like always believe in that greater vision and goal because there's a reason why. And don't get hooked on it being just one thing. Letting it be when you miss out on like the whole vast way and possibility of how it wants to come through for you. Because I do feel like people get so hooked on it being, it has to be one thing. And when it's really like, oh, like there's such a whole different scope. Like there's so much over here that is ready. That is the way. And it feels indirect in a way, but it's actually leading you to the goal. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I also say like the method, because we're all, and this is just what I'm feeling right now. So many people are at this place where it's like, okay, I've tried this path. I've tried that person's path. I've tried this thing. And then I tried that thing. And it's like, there's the old ways of doing things don't work in this new reality. And it's a lot simpler, I feel like, than we are overcomplicating it in many ways. But I feel like many people who are trying to find the thing or they're trying to go about it in some other path, it's like it's not meant to be done in the same way it's been done before for some, because some people are like the leaders of this new way that are here to bring through this new approach. And I always say like the method is in the process. And you're trying to figure out the method, but like the story, the method, the thing that you're searching for is actually in your own process. So like writing it down, getting like really clear with these like key moments that you're going through in this like journey of becoming our highest and future selves that we're really stepping into right now. And I
Mhm.
think that the more that we can relate with who we are becoming and less on this like past version that we keep defaulting to, it's like this like old default setting of like an energy that's no longer even there anymore, but we think it's there. Like the holds are gone. I feel like these karmic holds have been lifted, especially this past year. I'm hearing actually a lot of cheering. I'm
Mhm.
hearing a lot of like ancestors, and there's just so much like I could cry. There's so much love and rewards that are really on the other side, and that we're on the brink of receiving right now. And I feel like the ancestors and star ancestors doesn't just feel like lineage. It feels like there's a lot more heavy hitters, we'll call them, that are here right now and are really helping us all like usher in this new way. And I think it's like when you're tested to such an extreme end of what you know to be true in your soul and on your soul's path. And even these moments, I call it like the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into the path of becoming, and those things and those people that serve as those things that try to knock you off your path in some way, and you'd really have to double down on yourself and love yourself, even if that path gets really lonely at times. It's like always staying true to that path in your heart, even if you don't know what that is.
Yeah. I mean, well, there's never been a greater time to have to kind of, it's like almost like you're walking in the dark, just like
Yeah.
trusting that inner compass, like little by little. And also, I don't know if it's because we're in Capricorn season, but just I'm feeling like a lot of, ritual of being your new version. Like, what is the ritual of the new version of you? Like,
Yeah.
does the new version of you dress like this? Does she drink this?
Yeah.
When she is tested with this, like, does she do that old thing?
Right.
Or does she do this like new thing? So, even just like introducing these new, very tangible rituals that represent, again, bringing it back to that character. Like if I'm a new character, she probably dresses different, maybe she talks different, she thinks different, she might have a new setting, like maybe she has to move or be like in a different space, but really like be like living like her and using rituals to cement like who she is.
Yeah, because it's like the grounding it into form,
Hmm.
right? It's like grounding in into like it's like light grounding in all these things that are circulating up here, we have to start to ground them into physical form in some way.
Totally.
And I think that so much has been up in the air that there is so much like, okay, what can we do as little anchors or frequency anchors to bridge this into form? And
Mhm.
what is this new identity? Who am I becoming? Who is this new version? Why would I wait, like waiting years to become it when you can become it right now and kind of close that gap on it a little bit?
Totally.
But Nikki, I just feel like you're someone who I've always felt operates from such a deep level of truth and soul and love. And I feel like your voice holds such a frequency of love and truth. And, it's like truth, not just like real or false, but there's this highest level of truth that is different. It's beyond words, it's a felt energy. And I think it's important to share that. And I'm sure you already know that about yourself. But it's just important to share that because I feel like, I don't know if you feel this, like with where everything's going and with AI and all these different things. I think and there's so much like shiny object and distractions out there. And I feel like it's really important to know that who you are, like I've experienced you. I met you 4 years ago in your soul teacher method. And it's like that is who you really are, and that's the energy you hold. And I think it's important for people to know and understand that.
Thank
And
you.
I just want to bring it back to like, okay, so how I met you. So 4 years ago, I was about to give birth to my daughter, and I just started doing readings. Like it was like I just outed myself. And I was not looking for like a program at all. It was like not in the cards for me to like take anything. And I don't know, it was like one day, I think you put out this thing where you're like, I'm sure you don't do this anymore. It's like, you don't need to, but I think it was like a discovery call. And I don't know why, just like, it was like my soul. I call it like a soul overriding moment where your soul overrides the human and is like, no, we're just going to book this. So I booked it and I talked to you, and I don't even know if we even talked about the program, but I felt an energy. And it's like those moments where you're like, oh shit, I know I'm supposed to do this, but I don't want to do it, but I know I'm supposed to, and it doesn't make sense. And the way I choose things and is so different. It's not like logical. And this is how I know the difference between like an ego thing and like a soul contract is like I chose it because it was like I knew I had to be in it. And it didn't make sense at the time at all why I would take this course 3 months away from giving birth, but I knew that there was something for me there. And that's usually how I choose things. It's based on energy rather than like the logical way that people probably, I'm going to look at this sales page and like very logical. I don't choose things based on that. And it was just a knowing like I had to be in the group. And it's so funny because that's when I first met you. And I feel like when I took that course, I feel like I was so quiet and in the background in many ways. I wasn't like confident at the time in sharing. I was like, I think the group had a lot of energy. So I kind of like, I tend to like go internal in those situations. And I think I had to protect my energy because I was pregnant in many ways. But it's so funny. Like I think back to that time of like, there's so many reasons why I took it. And there's like, but the course itself is so in depth and it's rich and it's not, I don't know, I feel like there's so many courses out there right now, and a lot of it you don't know what you're getting into. I mean, I haven't taken a lot of courses, but some of it is like could just be an email, but it's like $10,000, and it's like, you know what I mean? And some of it is like there's actually like a lived true experience, and I feel like that's what your course is like you go in it, and it's not just. I think a lot of people are coming into their gifts in a big way over the next couple of years. And even like moving into the next level of those gifts. And not just to like do a reading, but it's also for like everyday life and to use in your business. So I don't feel like everybody's going to be doing like readings or this, but I think it's like we are actually asked to be using our gifts in our everyday life. And I feel like that's why, the course is also so great, and why I took it is like there's also the community aspect of it. And so I feel like it's one of those in-depth courses that I've taken. Like, what was your inspiration for the course? And I know that you have a very meticulous way of reading, so I do want to get into that after, but I'd love to hear
Yeah.
like your inspiration behind it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like years before I started, not years before, but probably like a year or two before I started teaching that program, I remember I was like going for a run one day in my house in Miami, and I just heard this call, this intuition that said like something about like you're gonna train like the next teachers, like the and I was just this itty bitty, like just starting. I mean, I must have been like 33 or something. And I was like barely getting like my feet wet. And I was like, okay, cool. Like I had known my intuition long enough that I knew that you can get a message and it may come to be 5 years from now, 7 years from now. And I had learned to already be patient with my messages. I didn't need that to happen the next day. But it did happen way faster than I thought. Like I never pursued to mentor or to teach these like up and coming teachers, but all these like it was like there was this one I guess the first soul reading method was, I believe it was October 2020. So obviously, all sorts of weird things were happening in 2020, and all of a sudden just like 20 women all together, no, 19 women, one man, all together came to me at the same time asking me to teach them intuition. And I was like, I don't know if I can. I don't even know what that is. Like I have no idea. But I followed the call, and these were like my first students. I had no idea what I was doing. I made a ton of mistakes. But it was the most magical 3 months, because we did in the beginning before, and I'm pretty sure you took the 3 month. We don't do 3 months anymore. We do 6 weeks.
Oh, I like, yeah, that's nice.
But it was like amazing. And I kind of felt like I was the first student of the program as well, because like when a program chooses you like that, which it's to me, it's really like it's a container, it's a portal. It chose
Mm-hmm.
me very much, and I kind of just like let it do its thing.
Mm-hmm.
She's like very difficult, and in the beginning she was like reeling like everybody that went through that program was like transforming in the deepest ways. Now she is much more nice and calm. But the first few times around, it was just like rough for everybody that was going through it. I mean, the world was changing so much at the time that we were doing it. And yeah, I mean, I was just kind of like following what the divine was asking me to do. I was very much in a place of obeying. So I obeyed that, and I kept following it. And I've gone through a lot of ups and downs with this program, because I've been teaching it now. We're on our 14th group. And I guess we've
Wow.
been teaching it for 6 years, because we're in 20. So, almost 6 years. In October, I guess it would be 6 years. Um, and I was like the girl that was like throwing shit at the wall and like seeing what stuck. Like there was nothing that I had in my business that was like the legacy piece that you keep repeating over and over again. I didn't even know that was, I thought I was too much of a creative to do that. Like I'm surprised how committed. It's like I married this thing, and like I was like the single girl forever. And there was so many times that I like didn't want to run her anymore, and I would try to close her down. But people have always like just keep showing up for the program.
Yeah.
So that's how we've kept it going. Lots of lessons, a lot of initiation into like becoming the leader that I am today.
Mm-hmm.
I really do feel like I am who I am because of hosting this one program so many times.
Yeah.
Everything that I've learned, all the hard lessons I've learned, the good lessons I've learned, boundaries, like all that kind of stuff.
Oh, so key. And like,
Yeah.
you can't, I just, sorry, I want to,
No.
but I feel like something I really learned is like, it's like in parenting too. You have to be stern, and you can't have people pleasing if you want to be like a reader or a leader. You can't be, you have to like throw that out the door, and you learn a lot the hard way, to get to
You
where
have
you
to
are now.
learn. I think the real thing for me was like you have to constantly remember who you work for. And
Right.
you're, as a human and as a business owner, you're going to think you work for the client. You're going to think you work for the customer. You're going to think you work for the audience member, but you actually work for the divine. And
Yeah.
that, like, that is the difference, right? Because like you have to be your human self to like run the business, right? Like
Hmm.
I have a Capricorn South node. I know how to run businesses. I am many generations entrepreneur. So like that's just a part of who I am as a human. It's in my genes.
Hmm.
But then I have to switch into remembering like who's my boss.
Yeah.
And when you know who your boss is, then you're not moving into a reading or a session or a program trying to, like you said, people please the and it's hard because you of course want everybody to have a good experience. But
Hmm.
after a while you learn that once the medicine leaves your body,
Hmm.
it is not it's not your control. You are not in control of whether that medicine is received bitter or sweet.
Oof.
Some medicine comes with sugar, right? Like my
Yeah.
son was sick the other day. I had to give him Tylenol, and he was mad that I gave him the grape flavor. He wanted the bubblegum flavor, and like he wanted his sweet version, whatever. But sometimes, you go to the pharmacy, you get a medicine, and it has no flavor on it. It's disgusting, and it's bitter, and it's gross. Same thing with plant medicine. Like some people have amazing trips on,
Mm.
a mushroom or something. And then some people have like never want to do it again because it was such a horrible experience. Your work is no different. Like if
Hmm.
you are really making space for the medicine to flow through you, like that's going to happen. So it is a misconception. And sometimes we give that energy, especially when you're trying to to like ground into like I want to be part of this industry. I want to sustain myself. I want to be able to do this every day.
Hmm.
So I'm going to make business choices and I'm going to try to make people happy and all that kind of stuff because that's what you do in business, right? Customer's always right. So that comes from a survival place and it's so normal that you're going to do survival things when you're running a business because like those are the laws which in a business exist in. But then you have these moments that you remember that like this is more than business, that's actually
Yeah.
not the paradigm that you're in. You have to go into that higher place and it shifts everything. But it's also sometimes to me, I feel like it is a huge leap. Like when you leap from like marketing 101 and running your business and blah, 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 and then
Yeah.
you leap into like this work is sacred and God is
Yes.
asking me to do it or whatever. It's a high and a drop, so it is
Yeah.
hard to exist in both,
Hmm.
because you're kind of existing in two worlds. You're like, I'm in the 3D world where people need a container, people need to
Hmm.
pay, people need to get their videos and their PDFs and their
Right.
whatever, like they need to have good customer service, like they need that because we
Hmm.
are, especially the client is meeting you at a 3D level.
Right.
And then, but you have to always exist at this other level, to be able to do the work well. So it comes from that place.
It is. It's such an interesting because it is it's a spiritual business, right? You don't, I always felt like I don't work for the human. I'm working for the soul here. I'm
Totally.
delivering messages about your soul. And I can't just tell you what you want to hear.
Right.
Like, because
Yeah.
I would hope that someone would tell me whatever's coming through for them. And it is an important factor to always come back. Like whenever I've felt challenged in business or situations, it's always been this moment where I have to like disconnect and recenter myself and come back into that place of truth and alignment with God, with source, and be like, okay, this is true for me. And I have to, you almost have to, it's like we were saying before, you have to come back into that energy and like recenter yourself and really trust in yourself in those moments. Curious if you have ever, like maybe earlier on in your days, like how you're saying like this soul teacher program has really something that led you to become the leader that you are now and more like, in a very solid foundation. I'm curious if you ever felt like there were some experiences and soul contracts that people came on earlier on in business where you were working through like karmic experiences, maybe like some past life stuff about like being an oracle or like weird, wonky past life stuff, and you knew that there was like a weird karmic energy that you had to step into your power to like break through. Does this make sense?
Yeah, no, of course. I mean,
Mhm.
in the beginning of teaching that program, I had very vivid memories of a past life of like being with these people, of being burned with them, like,
Yeah.
just like I very much understood that I was picking up where we left off is like how I understood it.
Yeah.
And but then there was all these like, little characters that would show up. And I think when we choose to run our own businesses and when we have that desire, it is soul curriculum, it is curriculum for you. So, and for your own expansion. So in the beginning, especially like we'll be faced and if this is where you want to get your expansion, like if you're like, oh, I want this big business or whatever, like you're saying, I want expansion, I want it within this business. So guess what? Your business is this container for your soul expansion. So it is like going to put you in situations where you expand. And
Yeah.
sometimes that comes after seasons of contracting and like
Yeah.
going through these hard things. Most of the time I have amazing karmic experiences where or like soulmate experiences where there's so many colleagues and friends of mine. There's been a ton of quote unquote luck in my career and it's just like yeah, I've been doing this shit for so long. Like I
Yeah.
like I've been doing this for so many lifetimes that
Yeah.
these people find me and they remember me and I can't explain that. Like that is just something that I know
It's
and
just a
most of it
knowing,
yeah,
right?
most of it is
Hmm.
like beautiful, like amazing. Like, oh, thanks for putting in all the different lifetimes of work so that I can like exist here.
Hmm.
And then yeah, and then you have like these harder relationships. I have not had them anymore. Um, thankfully, like my boundaries are like I mean, it will show up in the business every once in a while and like my team and I will like laugh. We'll be like, dude, if this happened like 4 years ago, we'd be freaking out. And
Yeah.
kind of like how we started the conversation, right? Like
Yeah.
none of it like we can walk into the bar now and like not be afraid.
Yeah.
On the contrary, we're like, oh look, like and that doesn't mean that the experience is not going to go away, right? But like it's the way you interact with it, the way you take it. Um, and yeah, I wouldn't. It was hard the first few years with a lot of. I didn't realize this until later too. I don't know too much about human design, but I have a line, a fifth, like a five line somewhere, and it's a line where a lot of people project onto you, and I knew that. Like everybody has a perception of like who I am depending on how they want to see me, and I was getting a lot of that in the beginning, and I think I just
Hmm.
wasn't good at like yeah, like telling who I really was. Now people know who I am more because I've had more time to be able to like express
Express it.
myself. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I got
Hmm.
a lot of projections. I have a lot of cancer. I'm a cancer through and through. I have cancer everywhere. I'm a cancer north node. I'm a cancer sun. I'm a cancer rising. So I have a ton of cancer. I am the mother, and like that is projected onto me all the time. Like if you have mother issues, like you will project it. Like it will reflect off of me,
Yeah.
and I have learned to like help people through that
Wow.
when they interact with me because I am. That's I understand that I represent that in a lot of ways, and that's why I have a lot of like soul children. I have a lot
Yeah.
of like in many ways like that is like what mentorship is. In many ways, I have this beautiful little crew.
It's interesting to note, like, you know, segueing into like your experience of like this path that you've been, how you really stepped into this path, and were there any like specific moments where you had to almost like you could have chosen a different path, but instead you chose like the soul overrode and you had like a breakthrough in your path where you felt like, okay, this is a moment where I either I'm going to play it small or I'm going to fall off the map here, but then my soul is leading me to step into something bigger, and how you knew that.
I have a very, very low tolerance for being off path.
Yeah. Me
Unfortunately,
too.
I've had this problem like since way before I knew anything about intuition or souls or whatever. I would jump from job to job. Like I was in I studied I like I studied public relations. I was in PR at movie studios in LA, and then I moved into editing at like big publications. And I loved all those jobs. But the minute that I was like, nope, like this is not it anymore, I would like
Mhm.
jump around to the next thing. And
I'm the same way.
my friends thought I was like insane, and I did feel like really embarrassed about it, like shameful. My dad's a doctor. He's been a doctor his whole life. My friends have literally been working the same corporate job since we graduated from college. So I was very ashamed of like that jumping around for a long time. And then I just like realized that I have a very low tolerance for doing something that doesn't feel right,
Mhm.
for better or for worse. So I think I can fake it for a while. I think what I'm more at risk at is for like kind of efforting
Yeah.
and trying to move things along faster. So I think like I always know what the path is, and like I will trip over myself when
Yeah.
I am trying to make it happen, if that makes sense.
Right. Like you
Uh,
trying to do all the work rather than being like, oh, I actually don't have to do everything.
Totally, or
I
like
can
trying to prove my worth, or like
yeah.
those are my wounds. Like I am an immigrant child, so I still have this like I got to make it in America, and I got to
Right.
work 3 times harder than everybody else. So that is just something that is in me and has served me in many ways, but it serves you until it doesn't serve you.
Yeah.
So like those are the things that get me in trouble.
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
can totally resonate with that, especially with like jumping around from job to job. I'm always like, even in moments when like you're feeling like, why isn't this thing moving? And then you're like, it's like, maybe why couldn't she just pick a long time career job and do the normal thing? Like, why can't you just do that? It would be
Yeah.
so much easier. And it's kind of funny with this energy of needing to prove. You said your dad's a doctor. Like, what's that conversation like when you go like, psych, I'm gonna do reading. I'm an intuitive now. Like,
I
you know
always
what I
say
mean?
like we like it's like have you ever seen that I don't know if your kids have ever watched that movie Encanto? Have you seen that
Oh,
movie?
yes, yes,
It's
yes,
kind of like
yes.
we don't talk about Bruno, no, no. That's like we don't
Yes.
talk about it at all. That's kind of
Yeah.
like what it is. Um, no, my dad is very supportive. The other day I was at his house and he had like my book in his bookshelf and he had like a bookmark. He had gone like midway through. So I was like,
Oh, that's so
I felt
cute.
very grateful. I don't want my mom to read my books at all, so I'm like happy
Yeah.
that she like gives me that privacy and like
Yeah.
lets me. I feel like if they were super into the stuff that I did, I think I would be a little bit self-conscious. So I'm grateful that they
Mhm.
kind of like let me do my thing. That
I
is the
feel that.
way that they show me love. And I think I have learned, I've been doing this work for 13 years now.
Mhm.
And in the beginning there, I mean, gosh, my mom, I grew up Catholic. I grew up Cuban Catholic. So my mom was like just distraught by these changes. She couldn't
Oh,
understand it. She
yeah.
was very upset about it. She sabotaged it many times.
Mm.
If I would ask for help, like if I would ask her to watch my kids so that I could like do my work, she would say absolutely, like she would say no
Yeah.
just because she didn't want me to do my work. She
Yeah.
would say yes if I was going on a date with my husband, let's say, but not
Yeah.
like if I needed like work time. So
It's
she
very
really,
triggering.
yeah, so she put a
Mhm.
lot of obstacles in my way. And like midway through this career, I had a conversation with my dad, and I just was like, I looked at him and I was like, I need to know that you're proud of me. Like, I am,
Mhm.
like, I need that. I need to hear that. And he was as emotionally available as he could be. And he was like, Nicole, I just want to know that you can provide for yourself, that you're safe, that you can take care of
Mhm.
yourself. And I was like, oh, that makes total sense. Like it wasn't, the fear that they had about what I chose was more about like, am I going to be accepted in society?
Right.
Am I going to be able to pay my bills? Am I going to be able to have a good life? Like, is she going to be safe? That was really their concern. And I wish they had the emotional intelligence to be able to explain that with me, but like they were not in tune with that. But as I had conversations, like my intuition told me, like, oh, this is what's going on. And, the story of my dad is hilarious. My father went to NYU and was studying to be a filmmaker. Like that's what
Oh,
he went
wow.
to college for. And my mom and him met like right around that time, like right before. And she tells this funny story that, like, his freshman year, he's at NYU living in the dorms. And she, in the back of her head's being like, thinking to herself, like, he's not going to be a filmmaker. Like, that's not what's going to happen here. Like, he needs to be a doctor. Like, we are immigrants. Like, we are in poverty and we need to get ourselves out of here. So she, like, I love how she's like, I just, I let him do it for a year. Like, she was kind of like, she was like, I'm steering this ship. And I guess, like, by his sophomore year, she kind of had the convo with him. And she was like, listen, like, I'm sorry. I know this is like, you're an artist and creative and I know you love this stuff, but like, we can't choose that, and I have a lot of compassion for them because I think every person in the lineage has their role. And I'm not sure that she was wrong. Like I kind of wish that I wish that I could say otherwise, but like what, the life that they gave us, like set me up to be able to take such a brave risk. Like I
Right.
don't think if I was like in a place of survival, that I could do this, like I knew.
There's like, you're like, dad had these glimmers of, being a creative and wanting to do this, but it was like, okay, I can't do that. But he like almost set that foundation
Yeah.
almost for you to be able to do it. And there's like a glimmer in his path that you kind of like were able to take on. And it wasn't in being like a doctor, but it was actually in the creative aspect and everything that
And
you're
a
stepping
healer.
into.
I
So,
mean, my
yeah.
dad is a healer. My intuition comes from my father. The other day I called him because I was having a hard time getting a fever down with my son. And I was like, Dad, I'm like really struggling. He has like 105 fever. Like I'm really scared. And he's like, you're dosing him wrong. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, Ethan's a big guy. You're dosing him wrong. I didn't even tell him the dose that I was giving, like the Tylenol or whatever the amount. He just knew. He was like, you're dosing him wrong. And sure enough, I dosed him the way my dad told me to, and the fever went away. So, and that's why he was beloved as a pediatrician because he's extremely intuitive. So yeah, like I'm sad that that was their role. But and that's kind of a reminder that, my grandparents moved to America. Like that was, they worked in factories and then like their kids were able to go to college. And then like, so it's like amazing. You want everything to happen in your lifetime. You want yourself to do everything
Yeah.
and to heal everything. And we like don't want to leave anything behind for our kids and we want to be like these perfect parents or whatever. But it takes like lineages, to be able to like, we're this like one long thread of the
Yeah.
people that came before us. So
And how much is set to evolve from you doing stuff for your lineage, but also like picking off where you were in other lifetimes of what wasn't able to be accomplished. And like,
totally.
in all these situations, had you stayed in the corporate job, had you stayed in all these different roles, it's also recognizing like you are someone who has many soul contracts with many people, both directly and indirectly. And think of how many people, not just in your ancestors and the lineage that is relying on you to like break through, but like think about how many people still in this moment that are waiting for you and have been looking to you to like open up the key to their path, right? And like think of how many soul contracts you've decided to take on. So it's like I always find like whenever it's like that feeling of being tested of like, do I even continue? Like, what am I even doing? Because I think we hit that at every stage of the game.
Totally. Oh my God.
It's like starting to recognize and be like, whoa, like there's so many people that are relying on you to be brave and like keep going. And it's not just your lineage, it's actually just like everybody that is waiting to find you or has been in contact with you that you've affected on their life path. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think, I feel like Jamie is saying that to me, but I feel like that's for you guys as well. Like everybody that's listening, like you just don't notice that your expansion is everybody else's expansion, like everybody, I like just we all inspire each other, right? So it's like when you're feeling like I want to give up or whatever, it's like everybody's kind of held up when you decide to give up.
It's
It's like
true.
we really are all connected and we truly are in this like process together. But yeah, I get frustrated as a human because I know that I have all these contracts with other people, and it definitely never feels like it's happening fast enough.
Oh, I
I'm
I
like, I'm ready
totally
for
know.
the next level, and I'm
I
like,
totally get that.
and it's not happening, and then you're like, where are the people? So
Yeah.
that's
It's so frustrating.
yeah,
It's such a frustrating thing to be on when you just know. And I think like 4 years ago, for example, like I used to think it was like I don't know, I just had such an unrealistic expectation of the way things were going to happen for me. And it's like, you actually have to do the work. Like, you know, you actually have to take action, right? Like, you can't just like expect it to appear.
yeah,
And it's funny how, like, I think that was part of my path. I thought it was just going to, it's such an unrealistic way. And I personally had to like go through so many experiences to like wake me up to be like, commit. Like you have to commit and you have to stay strong and stay rooted and let yourself have these moments where you're frustrated. And you know, that like that thing of, you know, the path and alignment, because you do so much with soul path. It's like this energy of like, okay, it's not like this loud screaming, I'm out of alignment. It's just it's like more, the more like aligned I feel on my path. And like, it's like more of this internal misalignment that I feel that I have to work through to clear to like kind of get back on the track a little bit.
yeah. So when we read paths, the way that I see paths, I'm like, okay, I see this path that the person is on. I like to call it like the default road. It's just kind of like the default path that we're on. And then I like to look at the soul's true path. And there's always this gap between like where you are and where you know your soul's calling you to go. And between that is, everybody wants to think it's a road. It's like kind of like if I'm on one sidewalk, then I have to like just walk my little feet to cross to the other sidewalk. And it's like not really like that. It's actually souls don't walk, souls shift. So bodies walk, souls shift energetically. So, like from being off path, let's say off path right now for you guys would be like, I'm very doubtful. I'm I'm very interested in like my security, perhaps. But where like my soul's really trying to call me to is, a place of, being brave, of kind of like demanding in a way, like what my desires are, like full on like demanding it and claiming it and being like, no,
Yeah.
this is like absolutely meant for me. So then there's a gap of energy between that. So that shift between like between those roads would be like a shift into I almost see it as like I think you guys might call it like being selfish. Like it feels like it's the shift of like really choosing myself over and over again.
Yeah.
And it might look selfish at times to other people, but really thinking like when somebody asks me for something, it's like, does this get me closer to what I want? When I do this thing, does this get me closer? Like truly, like almost like in being very intentional about the choices you make and seeing if it lines up to that path that you're trying to that desire that you're really, really trying to hit. So it's like what happens is when you're trying to go to your getting aligned and coming out of misalignment is it requires an energetic shift. And energy is obviously comes from like our minds, how we feel and how we act. It's the combination of those three things. But you want to have like the energy in mind. So if you're just like, okay, the energy is me first energy. Like that's your North Star. Like, if I was being me first, what would I do right now? If I was being me first, like, how would I think right now? And that is actually like what creates the shift and brings you to alignment. So,
I
yeah.
love this. I love it because I feel like it's what my soul has been trying to really get me to do. And I think this past year became very, very real with that. Like it was like I couldn't ignore that. And I had to really choose myself over and over again. And I had a lot of challenging experiences with people and situations. And it was actually a few months ago where I was in Hawaii and I had been, I don't know, just having some challenging situations with people, or people who I thought, you know, you think one way and then you find out they're not that way. And I've just been having, some weird stuff with that. And it actually was just me finally having to like wake up to choosing myself and recognizing who I am. And it's not coming from this, like, I think I can't be overly humble anymore. Like, I think I tend to like be overly humble. And I think my biggest thing is like, it's okay to be confident, and that's a difference between being overly humble and like being arrogant is very different. I think you also have to like recognize your energy and recognize you know the things about you, and having to make those decisions that are really challenging, and it may feel lonely at times on the path because you're choosing yourself over this thing that's trying to loop you back into an old energy, or people who aren't really who they say they are, and you're like having to really trust that, and it's really hard to go through those moments. But I think that's been a huge shift, is really recognizing, okay, who's pulling at my energy? Why do I feel the need to bend over backwards to help people when I need to actually just be pouring into myself right now? And
Mm.
so I really, that's been a huge situation for me lately. I think it's been a really long time coming, but I feel like this past year, I've had to really close a lot of cycles on that. And really just like anchor into my truth and where I'm going, and focus on my purpose, like you shared with me in my dream a couple weeks ago. But it's like
Mhm.
I really had to focus on my purpose and my family, and I had to recognize, okay, I've been burned a lot, and I think my kindness has been taken as a sense of weakness in a way when that's not true to me. Like, I'm actually quite, it's just not the true who I really, where I'm at. But I actually had to like regroup and refocus and be like, okay, this is not in alignment with me anymore. I have to focus on myself. I have to like be my own best guide right now. And I have to focus on my family that I'm creating and the life I'm creating with my family and my kids. And I don't have time to like pull people up with me. I have to just kind of go on my train right now, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, and you can always like put out a hand, but
Yeah.
like you're not gonna like bend over or like reach or whatever. Like there's always
Yeah.
the invitation, but yeah, it's this kind of overreaching that gets us in trouble.
Where, and interesting you mentioned with the path and the shift, what I've been kind of noticing is this feeling of we're moving from one stream to almost like a higher jet stream, and a higher way, like a faster streamline of energy. And I think that we're in the midst of a lot of us, I think, are going through massive upgrades right now in our energies and in our fields, and are, at a really rapid speed. But it's because we're like almost moving up to a higher jet stream. So as we've been here, and like the plane takes turbulence, so when it's on its way up to like a higher, faster way of doing things. And I think a lot of people have been hitting these turbulences as we're reaching a new stream of consciousness and energy and way of being.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like that is, what's so funny is that I think we've been understanding survival, like, or like feeling thoughts about survival lately, like, because things are changing so much and people are trying to figure out money or their careers or their jobs or even like their relationships. But like the true evolution, like in order to survive, you need to evolve. And the true like evolution is coming from this consciousness that is coming through. And some people are going to grab onto it and some are not, because some people are going to be mistaken, like almost like, the devil tricks you into thinking survival is like, do you have your money? Do you have your job set or whatever? And it's like actually what is going to make the human survive is this expansion of consciousness. And it's coming through and it's like, who wants to grab it? Who's willing to grab it? Who can see ahead and be like, yeah, I'm going to grab it. Some of us are like not even aware and it's just going to like pick you up,
Yeah.
because you've had momentum and like you got yourself here and it's going to kind of scoop you up. But it does require a lot of denial of the old ways. It's like
Oof,
you're going to
I
have to
like
be
that.
like, I am not, you can use a lot of different terms. Like I am not an energetic match. Like this isn't true for me. This isn't real. I no longer do that, or that is not how things work anymore. Like, you're going to have to be ready with those statements in your pocket, because like the old dream is going to keep trying to like pull you down, like under that tide. And in the meantime, so yeah, I feel like we're here a little. We're gonna start to see the light at the end of the tunnel in February, and then to me, March is a lot of people will start to see some like seeds like really starting to bloom in March, which is exciting. So we're almost there, but it's feeling a little rocky.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. This denial of the old and the choosing, I am available for this and I'm not available for this. This
Right.
is true for me. This is no longer true. And I think it's like really being focused in that mindset that's really going to create a lot of that change. I really am feeling a lot with March, like 301 feels very significant, perhaps even before. I love that so
Yeah.
much. Nikki, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, no, Jamie, it's such a pleasure. And it's so amazing to see your gifts just like bloom and bloom. It's like just proud, proud mentor moment. It's like an
Love it.
honor. And we're so lucky to like have you part of our community and doing the work that you're doing. Everybody's just blessed to have you. So thanks for having me on.